Welcome back, everyone, for another solo episode. So far, I had one solo episode and then two episodes, one with Layla and one with Maryam. And I just felt called to doing one on my own again, given that I just came back from Korea a week ago. So it was a very beautiful and healing trip. I got to go with my mom after 12 years of being away. So for those of you who don't know, my mom is half Korean, half American. And I used to go to Korea every summer. And then what happened was that I stopped going after my grandmother passed away. So interestingly, going back there with so many new changes in my life, new changes, but also changes that happened all throughout my 20s, I approached the trip so differently. And Korea is the land of so many different things right now, right? Like K-pop, K-drama, and kimchi, good food, all of those things. But it is also a hub where a lot of people come for beauty treatments. And while I was there, my mom and I got to visit like all of these different spas and places, like the different dermatologists and all of these things. And it was so interesting going to those places, and I don't know how else to describe them, but to compare them to factories. The reason why I'm even bringing this topic up is because beauty is such a big topic of conversation. And I feel like sometimes there is quite a lot of shame around it. So I do want to start this episode actually by first stating that whatever it is that you choose to do with your looks, with your face, all of those things, there's no judgment whatsoever, of course. I just felt called to talking about this topic because it feels very controversial and it feels very taboo to talk about all of these different things and to be also very honest about these things too. So interestingly, I mentioned, yes, it felt very factory-like. And so to remember that the beauty industry is very much an industry and it feeds off of people's insecurities. So the first place I went to with my mom, I went for very basic treatments like microneedling, facials, and red light therapy, things like that. And there's also this new thing where they inject salmon DNA into your face. And so I was like, okay, you know what? Let's try that. So I did. And so they did it like under my eyes and they did it all over my face. And I have to say it was extremely painful. And while they were doing that, the irony was the song that was playing in the background. The song that was playing in the background was a Korean pop song, but it was in English. And the guy was talking about how you don't have to change a thing about your face. So they're doing this to me and I'm like listening to the song and I'm laughing because I'm like, how ironic that this song is playing. Don't change anything, like you're beautiful the way that you are. And at the same time, I'm clearly going there because, right, like I want to get rid of dark circles. I'm there to like, refresh my skin, make it look more, glowy, all of those things. So anyways, I'm there. The song is playing. They're doing all of these things. And at the same time, there's this woman that's like screaming her head off. And it was wild because I knew that my mom was also there and she was also doing the facials and all of that. And this lady's like screaming and she's in excruciating pain. And there's this saying, right? Like, oh, beauty is pain, right? And you're like, okay, fine, maybe it is pain. But the way that she was crying just felt like there was something very off with everything that was taking place. Like, why do we have to suffer so much for beauty? Like, why are we doing this to ourselves? Like, why are we going to these extremes to look a certain way? And where is this coming from, right? Why are we conditioned to look at beauty in a certain way, right? We know that beauty isn't something that is like objective in the sense where like there's one type of beauty, right? We understand that it's very much subjective, like everyone has different perspectives and notions of what is beautiful and what makes a beautiful being, right? And yet at the same time, we have these high standards of beauty today, and especially when we're on social media and we're scrolling through our Instagrams and we're seeing all of these different models, celebrities, whoever, influencers looking a certain way, living a certain lifestyle. And it then creates this feeling within us of insecurity, of unworthiness, of maybe I need to do something so that I look a different way. And it was really, really interesting being in Korea and witnessing all of these people, Koreans, non-Koreans, people from abroad, people from the Middle East. I mean, the place was full of Middle Eastern women too, just coming for a few days, doing all of these treatments and then leaving. And again, this is to reaffirm that this is not to judge. This is really me like questioning all of these different things, because again, I do believe that things are not always black and white. It's not right or wrong, good and bad, right? I do understand that certain beauty treatments can make someone feel more comfortable and more at ease in their bodies, more confident, all of those things. So what I want to say too is that unfortunately, beauty has been used as a distraction in a lot of ways, and also as a way for a lot of people to feel like they're not up to par to do what they want to do. And I remember having this conversation with a friend of mine many years ago, where she was talking about how a lot of women feel like they cannot do what they've come here to do. They don't feel like they can pursue their purposes or fulfill their destinies in a lot of ways because they don't look a certain way, because they don't fit the typical standards of beauty, whether it's weight, by the way, like feeling like their bodies are not the right shape, or if it's like their faces, right? Like their faces are not symmetrical enough. And that was also really interesting to explore, because the second place that I went to, it had this like really big sign, and it says like beauty begins the moment that you become yourself, or you are yourself. And I was like, interesting. Again, like you're saying that beauty is actually something that happens from within, but what you're showing is that beauty is really this external thing, and that people need to do certain things to their faces to be beautiful. So this time I had like my skin analyzed, and that was a really cool experience to get like my whole skin analyzed and to see what it was that was showing through these these technological advances and all of that. I was like, okay, it's interesting. And then the doctor like analyzed my face, and then he's speaking in Korean, and there's someone that's like translating everything. And so he's like telling me, okay, so you need to do all of these different treatments, which were like laser treatments, which I was like, okay, laser treatments, I'm down to try and explore these different things. And then he told me, okay, so you need to do like Botox all over your face, and fillers and threads. And threads, like from what I've read and I've seen other influencers do that have been open enough to talk about it, it's like extremely painful. So I was like, okay, let's avoid all of these different techniques. Like I'm gonna stick as much as I can to the natural stuff. So let's stick to the lasers and all of that. He's like, yeah, but like, you know, your face, it needs to be more symmetrical, and you need to do this, and you need to do that. And like really trying to sell it to me, right? Because it's a money-making business. To remember that the beauty industry is an industry, and it's worth billions and billions of dollars, and they want to make money. And they're going to feed off of telling you things like, okay, you'll be more beautiful if your face is more symmetrical, or you'll be more beautiful if like your smile lines are gone, or like your wrinkles are gone, or. And I won't lie, there was a fraction of a moment where I considered it, where I was like, okay, you know what, like, there's no harm in doing this, and it would be interesting to see how different I could possibly look, and it could be very like subtle, where people might not necessarily notice. And then like, it was funny because it was my mom that was like looking at the doctor and looking at me and being like, what are you telling my daughter? Like, there's no way like I'm gonna let her do any of these things. Like, just keep it to the basic stuff, right? And again, not to judge those that have done it. Obviously, I'm in my early 30s, so I know a lot of my friends have gone down the Botox route already, have gone through the fillers route. It's been many years. And it's not to say that it's the wrong road to take and it's not right. It's more to question these things because I believe that it's a conditioning. And I will say that, yes, perhaps in the past it only really affected women mostly, but the place was also, there were men. There were definitely men there. And that was what was interesting too, right? Like it's also now able to convince men that they need these types of treatments, that they need to go through these types of things. So the infiltration is really, really deep, right? Like, what is the driving force behind us doing this type of stuff, right? Like, why are we feeling more and more called to going under the knife, doing all of these different treatments, all of these beauty enhancements? Where is this coming from? I feel like, honestly, it's, again, not one thing. It's society as a whole, for sure. I mean, we grew up with like magazines, and today children are growing up with like social media, and it's all over social media, like I said, and it creates a lot of insecurities. And I will also go as far to say like AI is adding more fuel to the fire, in the sense where you can take your picture, put it on an app like Facetune, and edit yourself completely, right? You can like make your eyes bigger, your nose smaller, your lips bigger. You can remove all of your blemishes, create like glass-like skin, change the color of your hair, put on makeup, do all of these things and post a picture, and like suddenly like you feel like, okay, like this is how I look, and then convincing others that this is how you look. You have people that are then able to change like their bodies, making themselves slimmer, slimming down their arms, their legs, and all of that. And I remember many, many years ago when I was living in London, there was this girl that posted a photo of my friend and I. And so if you're watching this, it'll be interesting. But she literally edited our arms out completely. Like my arm looked like a stick. It was like these teeny tiny arms. And I was like, but like, there's no way in hell anyone's gonna believe that these are my arms. Like, fine, the angle made my arms look really big. And at the time I wasn't working out at all. So yes, my arms might have been bigger. But when I saw the picture, I was in disbelief, because the thing is, like, I saw the picture, I didn't think about editing my arms, but this girl who uploaded it thought that my arms needed to be edited. And that's the thing. It's that a lot of times it is other people as well that will say something to you, then that makes you wonder, oh, do I need to do something in order to look a different way? I have many friends of mine growing up, myself included, by the way. I had many people tell me, like, never do your nose, you know, like, don't touch your nose. Your nose is like perfect the way it is. Like, don't think about doing it. And at the time, to be very honest, I didn't like my nose. But it's not like my mind went to, oh, I will get my nose surgically done because I don't like my nose. It was like, okay, you know, like I'm a teenager. Everything doesn't feel proportional. And so I don't like my nose. And when they told me this is where it started to come into my awareness of, wait, like, do I actually need to do my nose? Like, is this something that I need to consider? And I was like, no, like, as actually I grew older, I came to appreciate my nose. And when I went to Korea, honestly, it made me appreciate my nose even more, because I feel like it's what connects me to my motherland and to my roots, right? To have my nose be my nose. And that's the thing, right? Like, our features are very much representative of where we come from and who we are. And the part that I do find actually quite sad is a lot of people, for example, in Asia, in Korea, the surgeries that they do, right, is like eyelid surgery to like make their eyes look bigger so that they look more westernized, so that they fit the typical standards of beauty. Or it's, you know, to have like a certain look with their nose where they have a higher bridge and not a lower bridge. And it's all of these different things. And again, everything that I'm talking about is really all just a distraction. It's a distraction from how you're internally feeling. It's a distraction from actually coming and doing the work and fulfilling your purpose in the ways that you're supposed to. So interestingly, because the second treatments that I did with all of the different lasers, there was one that was quite painful. So they're like, listen, if you want to like take the laughing gas, you can take the laughing gas. I was like, sure, like I'm down not to feel pain. And so as I was doing that, my mind moved to, you know, all of the people that are currently suffering in the world right now that don't have access to these types of stuff, right? So to be fair, I'll be more precise. My mind went to people in Palestine that have had to go through surgeries without anesthesia. And here I am like getting lasers on my face with like medicine and things that, so I don't feel any pain, right? And I was like, again, you know, like if having your forehead smoothed out and there's no lines and you've done the Botox and you've done all of these things and it pushes you further towards your purpose and it allows you to stop thinking about what anybody else is saying and you really can focus on the work that you've come here to do, then like totally go and do the Botox, right? Like who's to say that that's wrong? And that's where I'm saying like things are not so black and white. Like if doing your nose or doing certain things gives you that extra boost of confidence, then so be it. Now, I also say that it's super important to be honest a lot of the times because, right, you have all of these celebrities, these models, when asked, right, like, did you do your nose? Did you do anything? And they're always in denial. Like me, no, I never touched my face. I've never done this. I've never done that. And the question is like, why? Why are you not acknowledging what it is that you've done? Why are you not sharing it to people? Because if you did do these things and you're hiding and you're not being authentic about it, that's where I feel like the problem lies, because you're putting the standards even higher, and then people that are actually feeling insecure with themselves are gonna look up to you and be like, oh, like, you know what, like she's so naturally beautiful, or she's so naturally this. And it's not to say that, again, you're not naturally beautiful or you're not naturally like a beautiful human being also from the inside. It's more to say that there's a lot of illusions that get created, and we already live in a world that is full of illusions. And the thing that I'm trying to share is that like we want to drop the masks as much as possible because we want to remain authentic. We want to remain true to ourselves because the world around us is changing at such fast speeds with everything, right? I mentioned the AI, I mentioned technology, social media, all of these things are moving so quickly. And at the same time, we then tend to lose our real connection to ourselves, to the natural world, and to what is real, right? So for me, it's like, as long as you are going through these things, which in its essence, I don't necessarily believe are totally bad, like as long as you're doing it with that awareness of, okay, what are my intentions behind doing it? Is it to be the best version of me? Is it trying to imitate somebody else's look, somebody else's way of expressing themselves, right? Like it's important for you to be discerning as to what your intentions are when going through these processes. Is it because you don't feel good enough as you are right now? Because trust me, you can do all types of things to your face, to your looks, but the feeling of unworthiness will never go away if you don't sit with yourself and look within yourself and contemplate, why is it that I'm feeling this way? Why is it that I'm not feeling worthy? And where is this coming from? And perhaps actually doing that inner child work, because I would say that a lot of these belief systems come from when we're younger and we're growing up and we're witnessing the world around us, whether it's our mothers that might have felt insecure in their own skins, whether it's our sisters, whether it's our friends, whether it's us as well, right? Like going out into the world and people judging the way that we look already from such a young age, right? Like how you dress, how you walk, how you talk, how you look. And personally, I'm sharing all of this because I obviously felt this way, right? I obviously went through these experiences because I probably am mixed as well. I mentioned my mom is Korean American, my dad's Lebanese, so I always felt a little bit different. I always felt like I didn't look like everybody else. And so very early on, I did receive comments about whether it was my eyes, my nose, this, that, and in the beginning, you know, sometimes you're like, okay, it's fine, it doesn't affect you. But then when it's being said and then you start questioning and then it starts like creating more and more of a story, this is where, right, it becomes detrimental to the person. And I would say that as I am in my 30s, I feel very differently, obviously, to how I felt when I was in my 20s and how I feel in relationship to my own beauty and all of that and acceptance towards it. And I would say that it really came from cultivating more and more of that inner worth, and that self-worth comes from within yourself. It really doesn't come from how you look or how you dress or how much money you have, any of that, right? So just if you are going and seeking for these things, again, intentions, I believe, are really, really important, like the why behind you're doing these things. And from there, right, asking yourself, like, is this because I feel like doing it, or is it because everybody around me is telling me that I should be doing this? And to really sit with those different feelings. And I know that I'm talking about a very sensitive topic, and I do understand that no matter what I say or how I say it, it can be misinterpreted, it could be like pulled apart, it could feel triggering to a lot of people. And the thing is, like, I feel that I didn't want to talk about this topic for a very long time because I didn't want to trigger other people. I didn't want other people to feel like I was judging them. But I just felt being there and having it so in my face, and to see very much how it is this huge factory, it's this huge business feeding off of people's insecurities, feeding off of people's fear of aging as well, right? It's this fear of also getting older, and the thing with like getting older, it's like as you get older, you're faced more and more with the fact that you're no longer going to be in this world. And I feel like that's one of the things that start to play in people's minds. It's this fear of death as well when it comes to aging and seeing the wrinkles. And it's like, okay, like, you know, if I look a certain way, then this is not even a possibility. In some ways, it feels like it's tricking the mind into believing something like that. And I will also say that one thing that I really do believe, and this is something that my friend shared as well, is when your mind is clear and your heart is pure and you are really connected to yourself and to the divine, how can you not beam light, right? How can you not be this incredible being of light, this being that is full of power, that is full of potential, and also full of beauty, just for allowing yourself to be that channel of the divine? So it's something I wanted to mention as well, because you can have someone be the most beautiful person externally, but they have what we're gonna call like ugly thoughts or wishes harm onto others and doesn't necessarily have a beautiful personality. Eventually, people around are going to feel into that. Eventually, the beauty, the external beauty, will fade, and the person will not have really developed its fullest potential either. So another way also of looking at this is like, if doing a few things to yourself makes you feel really good and it allows you to be a kinder and better person, again, by all means, right? Like, great. Like, if it allows you to be more connected to the self, be more connected to the divine, much more serviable, much more agreeable to the world around you. And it's funny because I do know people like that. Like, they did a few things and then suddenly they became the nicest person in the room. And I'm like, okay, like, you know, if it's clearly it was coming from their insecurity, now they're feeling a lot better within themselves, so they lash out less. They feel like, you know, they enter a room, they're not comparing themselves to other people anymore. So that's great. And then you have another person that might have done nothing to themselves and has all of these, you know, insecurities, darker thoughts, and right, they might end up being a little bit more jealous or a little bit more aggressive and all of that. So again, I would say like checking in with your internal world more and trusting that the shifts that are going to take place inside of you are going to reflect outside of you for sure. It's going to beam out of your face. And at the same time, this whole topic is really not black and white. And I'd love to create more and more spaces to talk about this, because I feel like obviously I have my own limitations, my own blind spots, and I feel like other people can then bring in different perspectives into this conversation. And just trying to also recall some of the things that I've read and things that I've come across, right? You'll have people having very different experiences with the different treatments that they do. Some people might have like very positive experiences. There's no symptoms, there's no side effects. They're totally fine with it. And then you have other people that do have side effects, that do have health complications after doing all of these things. So again, it's important for you to understand yourself and to understand what it is that you're putting into your body. I do believe that, yes, besides everything else that I've talked about, there are serious, real side effects to putting toxins into our bodies, right? Through these injectables. There are toxins in there. And we have to be honest about that. Like, it's not without any effects. We know that. Like, even taking Panadol has side effects on our bodies, right? Imagine, yet alone, putting like all of these artificial chemicals, toxins into our bloodstream. Like, what is taking place and what is happening? And I truly believe that we don't know the full extent of all of these things just yet. And if we do know, because it's very possible that people in charge of this knows what the side effects are, they're not going to tell you what the side effects are, right? They're not going to say this and this is going to happen to you, at least not right away, until there's like a bunch of people complaining about certain side effects that they have. So again, be extra discerning, extra mindful, check in with your intentions. Why am I doing this? Is it serving me? Is it allowing me to step into my power and purpose more? Because again, if that's going to be a clear yes, if that's what's going to happen by doing these things, by all means, again, like, no judgment. However, if it's going to keep you in that cycle of feeling unworthy and feeling insecure, really, truly understand that that's only going to change when you look within your own internal world. And that, I have to say, that takes a lot of inner work. It takes a lot of patience. And it takes breaking free from a lot of the conditionings that we're seeing, you know, that I'm at least seeing and witnessing, not just within myself and in my own life, but also in the lives of the people that I speak to and the people that I tend to coach and that come to me and that we speak about these things. And I will say that it's not something that a lot of people do talk about. And I would say that it has to do a lot with shame. I would say that shame is a very big factor in all of this. And I did mention at some point, you know, some people aren't even able to say what it is that they've done, right? And it's like, okay, like, where is that coming from, right? Like, is it because you're ashamed that you did it? Is it because you didn't fit the standards before? Is it because, like, you don't want to discuss it openly? Like, I would say, like, shame has no place to live inside of our bodies. And yet, at the same time, through doing it or not doing it, there's a lot of shame. This is why I mentioned at the very beginning, like, this is not to judge or to add more shame to anyone's experiences right now, because there's enough of that in the world already. There's a lot of shame in the world. There's a lot of shame that we put onto women. And really what I'm hoping to do with this conversation is to allow each and every single one of us to have a more open mind around these conversations and to speak about it with more authenticity and more trust. And actually even more so than trust, I would say, like, more security, right? That it's okay for us to be feeling the ways that we're feeling, and that, again, right, whether your face is symmetrical or not, is ultimately not going to, you know, make you or break you. But if you feel like at some point it's something that you're super concerned about, then it is what it is, right? And to not let beauty be a distraction to your purpose, to why you've come here into this world, because there's so much more than what, like, there's so much more that you offer than what you look, like, right? It's not what you look like that really, really matters ultimately. That's not your biggest offering to the world, that's for sure, right? And yes, some people make careers out of it, and that's a great thing in a lot of ways, perhaps, but ultimately it doesn't mean that everybody needs to feel like that's their main mission in life. Like, there's so many other things to focus on, so many other things to think about. And I will say that, yes, like the way that we see the world, there's definitely pretty privileges going around. Like, if you look a certain way, you get accepted to certain schools. If you look a certain way, you get certain jobs. Like, all of these things are very much real and very much happening. And so I can also understand why some people feel even more pushed towards doing these things. But ultimately, what's going to matter is the essence of what you're providing and the essence of who you are. And if someone or an institution or a school or whatever, a person is unable to see that, then also for you to question whether it's something that you even want to keep in your life, or if it's something that you even want to keep pursuing, right? Because it really ultimately doesn't matter in the long run, not as much as your soul, not as much as who you really are. And yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of what else I could share and say, but this is a conversation that can keep happening, and I'm happy to take on questions after. But I feel like for today, I've spoken about a lot of things, and I know I kind of spoke about them in, like, again, a non-linear way, but I just wanted to plant a few seeds in your minds, and to share also what's been on my mind, especially after my trip to Korea. So thank you so much for your time today, and I hope that you found the conversation to be interesting, and just sending you lots of love, and we'll be back with other episodes next week. So make sure that you subscribe, like, follow the Cosmic Channel on YouTube and across all of the different platforms. Okay.